welcome back to Focal Talk. This is our third episode. Today we've only got the one guest slot, but it's worth it because it's Innis Carson. So I hope you all enjoy that. So I'm Callum and
I'm Paul.
And so today we've got Innis for you, as we've said, but we also just want to talk a little bit about what's been going on the screen recently. So
we've had some good players recently. We had Ian Volante, a former player, and someone who gets a mention in the Innis interview later on.
Yep.
Who completed his Octa run. You've met Ian before, have you?
Yeah, a couple of times. He's a great guy, is Ian. He's originally from my neck of the woods, I believe, but he's been based up.
He's a Yorkshireman, yeah, he is.
Yeah,
but I think he lives in Edinburgh now.
Yeah, he lives in Edinburgh now. I think he's been on a few quiz shows before. He's been on Countdown before, where he beat a young Bradley Cates. And that was about 10 years ago, maybe 10, 11 years ago. Yeah, I think he won a couple of games in his first run. So he's always been one who we knew had the potential to do even better, and so it's really great to see that A, he's had the chance to come back, and B, he's taken it and he's become an Octa champ.
He's completed his Octa run. Yeah, I know he was good. He was. I enjoyed the group, the Facebookers group. We enjoyed playing along with him.
Yeah, so he'll be joining.
Seems like a nice fella as well.
Yeah, he'll be joining our friend Luke in the finals. I think he's the number 2 seed as things stand.
He is the number 2 seed. Yeah, that's right. We've had another good player, that Ryan Stiles, who's been on recently. He was good.
Yeah, you
were impressed by him.
Yeah, I was very impressed by him. It's not often nowadays you see a player do that well who we haven't already heard of, through Apterous or some other means. So yeah, clearly a really, really talented player with a lot of, a great vocabulary for sure. He got some really impressive spots. I think the one that struck me most was he got roadsters for a 9.
That's a nice spot.
Yeah,
this series seems to be kind of picking up pace, I think, now, doesn't it? It sort of started off a little slow, but it's kind of getting going now. So we have a good few players now. We have three confirmed for the final anyway. At least 3. There's 3 Octa champs so far.
Yeah, and 3 very good Octa champs too. So yeah, we're certainly looking forward to the series final. Should be a good one. I'm hoping I can be there in person in the audience for the filming. Yeah,
me too. If we can just find out the dates, so I can get flights booked.
As soon as the dates are known, we can try and make the necessary arrangements. Obviously, we want to support Luke there, but even from a neutral perspective, it's really shaping up to be a very good series final. So we're really looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, it seems to be. It's gathering pace. I suppose the only other bit of news this month was Mouse, your friend Thomas Carey, won CoManchester.
He did, yeah. He did it for Yorkshire in enemy territory.
He did it for Yorkshire.
Yeah. Well,
you guys are always playing for your county, aren't you?
Oh,
really?
Yeah, we're very passionate about it. Even though Mouse is effectively a German who was born in Derbyshire, he's still one of our own. But
he is, right? A Yorkshire German.
Yeah, it's good to see because he's. I think this is
with an Irish name as well.
Yeah. I think this is his second co-event win, but and it's the first one he's won that's been a really big event with a lot of strong names in there.
Yeah,
he's always had it in him as Tom, and I think now he's
been
won
one
a
of
big
my favourite players.
Yeah, he's won a big one. I think he'll go on to win a few more because that tends to be how these things happen. So I was really, really pleased for him because he really deserved it. He was comfortably the best player on the day. He was so good. So it's been a long time coming, and it's fully deserved, and I think it's going to be the first of many for him.
You'll regret saying that now when he's playing you in every final now.
Oh no, I'm yet to play Tom in a very significant game in a co-event. As far as I can remember, we've played each other quite a few times earlier on, but it's rarely been even one that decides a place in the final or anything like that.
The business end, as they say. Yeah.
I'd love it because he's just, as well as being a great player and everything, he's just so much fun to play with. His Tom. I remember he hosted the Blackpool final last year, and he just made it so much fun. He's a great guy. I love him. So yeah, hopefully me and him will be in a final one day. That would be one to remember.
Well, there's a good shout out for you, Mouse. Congrats anyway from the pair of us on all our listeners.
Yep.
So let's talk about our interview today. Mm-hmm. Who do we have coming up?
We've got Innis Carson, who is not only is he an absolute legend of the game, he's definitely up there in the conversation of, you know, the GOAT, the best ever. Is because he's so good and he's so consistent, and those who have trawled through all the records and Apterous will know that he can do it in many different variants and disciplines. And as well as that,
he's an all-rounder, isn't he? Yeah.
But the really remarkable thing about Innis is for someone who is so dominant and so, because he really was dominant for a long time. He was by far the number one player online for years, and but he was just so much genuine modesty and humility as well. He is the absolute embodiment of sportsmanship. We're really lucky to have him in our game, because he's a great guy as well as a great player. And I've always enjoyed speaking to him. Don't always get as much chance to speak to him as you might like in more recent years, as he's sort of taken a backseat to All Things Countdown. So anytime
we'll get him back. We're going to get him back.
Yeah,
you know that.
We're working on it. But yeah, any chance you do get to speak to Innis, you have to cherish. And I've really enjoyed speaking with him.
Well, I very much enjoyed it, and I hope our listeners has enjoyed as much as we did.
Yeah, we hope you enjoy it. So here it is. This is us speaking with Innis. Okay, so today we're joined by Innis Carson. He's a big name in the game, a legend of the game to many, certainly those of a certain countdown era. So welcome, Innis. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Show.
Cheers. Much appreciated.
Good. Right. So, Innis, we thought we'd start by talking about what's just happened. You recently hosted a co-event in Manchester in February.
I did, yes, and I have to say I'm very pleased and very relieved at how well it went. There was many things that were giving me anxieties before, not least the storm. I was hearing all kinds of horrendous, news stories. Oh, all the transport's going to be disrupted, this and that. And I was in the fairly unique position of having to travel by plane to get to my own event, because I'm currently based in Northern Ireland. So I thought, A, what if I don't even manage to get there? And B, what if I get there but no one turns up? So, but I'm relieved to say people did turn up. Thank you to yourself and all the others who did. And I'm, as far as I can tell, it seemed to go well. I had a very good time, and I hope all the players did as well.
Yeah, it was a great event. It was very much enjoyed, and the storm didn't affect things too much in the end, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, very, very relieved for that. And it was a very
I think if no one else had turned up, then you'd have had the right to be quite cross at them, given that you had to get a plane.
Yeah. I would have had a passive-aggressive post saved up for that occasion.
Leading by example, that's good.
Yeah. But, yes, no, it was... everything seemed to go smoothly. The venue was really nice. It was surprisingly difficult to find somewhere in Manchester, in the centre of Manchester, that actually, was affordable and that, we could use for this kind of event. But fortunately, this sort of peculiar little beef restaurant had a little sidebar that was actually very nice. I thought it had a very sort of, old-timey speakeasy kind of ambience to it, which is strange for Countdown, but
there was an unusual ambience when you looked at the pictures as well, because it was all quite dark and moody and candlelit, kind of romantic, and romantic, shall we say?
Well, it was Valentine's weekend, Paul. So
it was, yeah. It did. You guys all looked hot. So,
well, thank you.
It was a great venue. Like, I don't think you could have asked for a venue closer to a main train station in a major city centre.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
Well found.
No.
I know me and Thomas Carey got, as a maximum, we got the word beef in our game, in the beef venue, so we were very happy with that.
That was the max, a beef, oh, wow.
Yeah, 4 was the best, so in the bar on beef, we got beef.
I was strongly considering that. I had a little side competition for word of the day, and I very nearly gave it to that. I just felt that was very apt, but I think that I felt it was you that won the real one in the end for in that case, wasn't it, Callum? Anyway, so I felt I should.
What was the word?
Steenbrass.
That's way better than beef, isn't it? Way better than beef. What does it mean? I've seen the word, but I don't know what it means.
I think it's a type of fish.
Yeah, it's a South African.
Steenbrass? Steenbrass.
You're probably pronouncing better than us, yeah. I mean, half the people in the room seem to believe it was the plural of a mysterious world called Steenbra anyway, so...
Yeah, it sounds like somewhere in Scotland, doesn't it?
It does actually, yeah.
I think generally the rule with countdown words is it's either a tree or a fish, and it doesn't sound like a tree, so it must be a fish.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so that would have been a first if a word of the day prize was won by a 4-letter word and an everyday 4 at that. But.
Not a profanity. Yeah.
Well, yeah, true.
There were plenty of those today.
There's plenty of nice 4-letter words there. There are plenty of them.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was a really great event. I certainly enjoyed it, and everyone else I spoke to who attended did.
Is it difficult getting somewhere in Manchester because of the tourism factor? It's a bit like Dublin. It's a weekend destination, isn't it?
I think it is. Yeah, they just generally there are places that have function rooms, but they tend to be either they expect you to have like enormous groups, they're for like massive parties, or they're just extremely expensive, or some places are just like, at the time I was also trying to consider wheelchair accessibility in case there were going to be anyone there who was going to require it as well, and it's also disappointingly hard to find a place that suits that as well, but that's another thing that this particular venue does very well. So top marks to them. I would thoroughly recommend them to any future co-event hosts in Manchester.
Do you want to give them a plug? What was their name again? They
were called the Alston Bar and Beef. It is actually a Scottish company, I believe. I think the original was in Glasgow, but they have a satellite sort of venue in Manchester, and I just have to say, and apparently people enjoyed the food as well. that was a wild card.
Yeah.
It was I had to get this canapé lunch option, which I didn't have a chance to have any myself, but I understand from people's comments that it was fairly good. So it
was very good. Yeah. Cool. So the hosting of co-events has sort of come relatively late in your countdown history.
Yes,
because you've been around for a long time, and you've hosted a few other events before. I think this was the first one that you were on your own on the day in terms of hosting. I know, obviously, you were very much working with Zati in the build up to it, but on the day you're on your own. But you've co-hosted plenty of others before in recent years, which we'll probably get onto later. But for many years before that, you were more involved in the playing side of things, weren't you?
Yes.
Do you want to take us back to how that all began with your countdown experience?
Yeah, it was a very long time ago, actually. It's in many ways it kind of parallels what Connor was saying last time, which I thought that was a very good interview. I have to say I really enjoyed listening to that. But that was actually probably my initial... I'd always kind of watched Countdown, it's the cliche story everyone says, but I'd always kind of watched Countdown since I was a kid. My granddad was big into it, and I was always fairly keen to it. And then it was only really when I saw Connor on the TV, which was about 2005 or thereabouts. Or,
it was, yeah.
Good. I actually thought, well, you can actually do it. I don't have to wait till I'm older. I can give it a try. I did actually audition immediately after that for Countdown, so I would have been in the following series. I would have been about 14 myself at the time. I'm more or less the same age as Connor is. And I auditioned twice, actually, and I did okay. I had sort of the anagramming and the arithmetical ability, but just my vocabulary wasn't great, as as when you're a child it tends not to be. I would get there in the audition there would be the 9-letter word available in the selection was blinkered. I found blinked, but I didn't know the word blinkered, so literally everyone in the room got that but me. So I didn't get picked for the show, unfortunately, which I was disappointed with at the time, but turned out to be something of a blessing in disguise, because I would a few years later have a bit of a resurgence of interest, and I ended up doing a lot better than I otherwise would have done.
And how did that resurgence of interest come around then? What happened then when you sort of failed that audition or whatever, and you didn't get picked for the show? What was your mindset then?
I was a bit kind of disappointed, and I kind of when I failed twice in a row, I thought, well, I guess it's just not really meant to be, and I kind of, you know, my enthusiasm kind of waned. But I think it was only a few years later that again it was. I think just I happened to start watching it again because I was in my last year of school, and to be honest, I was kind of bored, didn't really have a lot to do, and then I heard. There was another child prodigy. He was called Kai Ladaman, who was actually at my event this month. So some of you will have met him there. But back then he was like an 11-year-old, and he was making headlines because he was an octo champ himself, and it was impressive. I mean, that just kind of again it caught my attention. You know, some of my friends said, "Oh, you should see this 11-year-old is really good." And then immediately, funnily enough, like straight after his octo run finished, it was Charlie who created Apterous and was kind of the godfather figure of the online countdown community. He actually started his own a very impressive run in the show, and he happened to mention, "Oh, do you know that I've got this website, c4countdown.com.uk?" And I said, "Oh, well, I'll go and have a look at that." And then I did, and dipped my foot in the waters on very new Apterous. It was brand new at that point in time, you know. Mm-hmm. It was still very much in its infancy, but you know, I dipped my toes in, and like I don't know, just became hooked in the same way that I imagine, but all of us do, kind of to some extent. You just have that in the rush, and then I played for a few months, and then I thought, right, now I can. But now I just kind of thought, now I'll be able to maybe give a better account of myself. Like I was doing fairly well on Apterous, you know, I'd you know, risen up the ranks relatively quickly, so I thought now's my chance, and I went on for it. And then it was in those kind of early days that you could, like, because the producer Damien of Countdown was also very much involved in Apterous himself. He would play him a lot, so I got talking to him, and then he was just like, "Oh yeah, absolutely apply, you know, you'll go right through." So it's very different now, obviously, you know, because no, I went on, and I was still only a sort of very nervous 17-year-old at the time. It's kind of embarrassing to think back to it because, you know, I was on their TV, but I was like really, really like nervous. Like I was really awkward. Like, you know, the Jeff, the host at the time, would turn to me and like, "Oh, tell me about yourself," and I was just kind of like, "Hello. I'm very happy to be here." And so, I don't imagine that I would have been the most electrifying bit of TV to watch, but I
think we're all like that in our first show, really, aren't we? But I mean, I swung my chair for 10 minutes, really.
Yeah, I think, you know, I did that too, and you know, I was. I think it's just hard to avoid doing that. Yeah, and like
it is. You're on the telly, your mum's watching and all that. It's, you know.
Yeah, exactly. That was the moment that it really just kind of sort of hit me, because you obviously, when you're in the studio, you can see like monitors of what's going to be shown on the TV, and then you're just sitting there and it's going all around you. It was Jeff at the time, who was an absolute pro, I have to say. Great. Of all the TV shows I've ever seen, you know, he's like probably the most like professional at his job I've ever seen. Like,
it's his middle name, isn't it? Professional. That guy could do it live.
Yeah, well, that's it. And it felt like that the whole time I was there. Like, for any time I was at the studio when he was the host, I never saw him make even the slightest mistake. And
so no retakes,
none whatsoever, which is
that's amazing. Yeah,
it is absolutely incredible. Obviously, with compared to Nick, you know, God bless him. Nick is a lovely guy, but I'm sure you two know, have been there in the studios. Like, you know, retakes have to be done.
He's best 2 or 3, isn't he? Really? So
yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And
I've never had the pleasure of seeing Jeff work live, but it certainly strikes me from what I've seen as a really, you know, high functioning professional. Like, I think it might help that his background is in a lot of live broadcast TV.
Yeah,
whereas Nick was used to a much more recorded environment.
Yes, that's right.
It doesn't surprise me to hear that he was that good at the job at when he was on Countdown.
Yeah,
that just seems to be him all over.
Like you say, yeah, I guess it's his background. He's just so good at reacting to things as they come in. He knows exactly what to say, and he can really bring the drama out of a situation, etc. And if anything, that just kind of made it even harder for me, because I was just sitting there in the chair, everything was whizzing by. The show was going like a train. It was going smoothly, and then suddenly, and our challenger is Innis Carson, and the camera's suddenly on me, and then I have to speak, and I just feel like I'm bringing this show to a juddering halt.
You're comparing yourself against Jeff in terms of live TV management.
Yes, I know. That's a little bit unfair on myself, but it's how
it was.
A little bit. It was. At the time, but you get used to it. Like as kind of time went on, and actually, I kind of got, as well as getting the bug for Countdown, I actually kind of got the bug for being on TV shows more generally. So I might come to that later, I suppose. But it was a terrifying but quite exhilarating experience. And then I didn't win my series. I came unstuck in the semi-final, which but I was very pleased with how I did still. And I think maybe the fact that I didn't win gave me that little bit, so it prevented me from feeling like oh well, I've done it, I've won, I've succeeded. I kind of felt like I've got kind of unfinished business here.
Yeah.
I still want to prove myself a bit. So like it was only really shortly after that I started going to the events to play, and that just kind of became a bit of a thing for myself. That was those were almost like the highlights of my year pretty much. By then it was my very early student days. I'd get the old god-awful megabus down from Edinburgh to overnight megabus down to London, because London was the first one that I went to, and then
it's quite a trip. Yeah,
it was. I wouldn't recommend that. If that bus is still going, then like just stay away like the plague. It's 10 hours and it's uncomfortable. You can't sleep.
That's
I'm much more sensible now. I can afford planes now. I'm not an impoverished student that I used to be, but
Yeah, but you got to think of the carbon footprint, which puts out more.
That's true. Well, yeah,
a megabus or a plane, probably the megabus.
I wouldn't surprise. It wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
Yeah, because with the megabus, you've got the bus itself, then you've got the 7 trucks that have to come and repair the megabus when it breaks down.
Yes.
Yeah, so you were doing a decent amount of events when you first got into them, weren't you? And you were, I think, for a long time until Jack Worsley came along and just sort of dominated the co-event scene. You were the how would you say that, the winningest player at co-events, weren't you? Yeah, you had more titles than anyone else for a while. It always struck me when I saw you playing at events that you seemed to be more successful. Obviously, you were a great player, but there were a lot of good players there. I think you seemed to translate your ability into events better than most. Partly because you seemed to me, I don't know how you felt internally, but you seemed to be quite calm and relaxed and just enjoying yourself.
Yes.
Whereas a lot of people felt a lot of nerves and tension at co-events, almost like what you've described on telly, and people were feeling this at events, whereas I think you seemed a lot more relaxed.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, it always surprises me when people talk about that, like, I'm in the final, I'm so nervous, what if I, how can I cope with my nerves in the final? Like, everyone handles situations differently, as no one thing's better than another, but for me, events are just a laugh, it was very hard to, I think just something about the nature of them as well. I mean, they're never run as like super serious competitions. Like they're always, but so, I mean, I never felt slightly nervous, and I guess that probably does make up, is just why they tended to go so well, I suppose.
Your rivals aren't in their separate corners, are they? Really? I mean, you're all mingling and chatting, and there's a certain relaxed. I mean, I've only been to 2, so I'm not speaking from a wealth of experience, but that's the impression I got, is that there's not that. Mm-hmm. There's not that sort of antipathy towards your opponents. It's all very friendly and nice and social.
Absolutely, yeah. And I got on very well with everyone I met. It was a very welcoming kind of environment, and like, if I was to lose, it wouldn't be like, oh my god, it will be an eternal shame on me, this and that. I don't really, never really felt there was anything to get kind of nervous about. But
well, that must have affected your game then. I mean, that's the end that we all look for. That's not trying too hard.
Yeah, I think it
does help your game, doesn't it? We all find we've hit our highest scores, or we've got the most maximums or whatever, when we weren't really even paying attention.
Yes.
You're doing it on automatic.
Yes, that's exactly it. And, I guess kind of the events are kind of the happy medium, because on the TV I was genuinely nervous, and, that would affect me. But when I'm just playing online, like, I'm not even really, it's almost too, like, informal. You're not even really necessarily paying attention, like, just kind of, doing it in the background, and if you get your mind on other things. So, did
you remain nervous throughout your run? Or was it just towards the start? But I found I was nervous game 1, game 2 I settled.
I settled somewhat, but not completely. Certainly, the first game I can barely remember. My mind was just swirling. Isn't that like I thought worrying about absolutely everything. It kind of went on from there, but no, I mean, it was still, because it was all over the space of, my run was over the space of just the 3 days recording, and so it didn't. It all seemed to just kind of go by. I didn't really feel like it was there for very long. And when the finals were more enjoyable, but at the same time, honestly, it was much. It was very stiff opposition. The series I was in, there was quite a few very strong players in it, and so So it was a different kind of nerves in that sort of respect. It wasn't nerves in that, oh my god, I'm making an idiot of myself on TV, and I'm publicly humiliating myself, I look stupid. That all these kind of self-conscious worries. It's just kind of like you don't want to lose at this point.
Yeah, you do, and you're playing someone good as well. So you're not. It's not that relaxed state that you would have at the co-events.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was in 2009, I think, and then
it was.
As you said, you went on to some events over the next few years, and then you came back in 2013 for the 30th birthday championship.
That's right.
We spoke on our last episode. We had both our guests were participants in that, so we have spoken about it before. But I think there's some value to be had in hearing everyone's experiences from that tournament, because it was a truly unique moment in Countdown history, I think. And you had 2 huge matches against two of the real greats, and I that was just before my time. I joined the community just after the 30th birthday championship, but certainly when I joined Apterous, you were very much the top dog at the time. I think you'd been top of pro ranks for a huge amount of weeks, and you were winning in all the variants, not just normal. So were you seen as one of the favourites going into the 30th birthday championship, or was it just huge at that time, that the strength of the field?
Well, I mean, it was. I think I was sort of seen as a favourite, but there were, as you say, so many people that it could reasonably go anyway. I wasn't particularly disappointed, etc., that I didn't get especially far in it, because it would have required, like I said, the first game I was playing against Adam Gillard, who's also one of the absolute top players on Apterous at the time.
I remember seeing lots of battles between you two on Apterous, especially in the hyper variants. There were some great matches between the two of you.
Yes,
but in normal as well.
I play a bit of hyper, so I'm used to seeing these two names a lot.
On the high scores and such.
Yeah, a lot.
It's a shame we couldn't have had a televised hyper game between.
Oh, that would be it.
I would kill for such a thing. Honestly, I know you're.
I would host the thing. I tell you,
please do.
It's on. Let's do it. The 3 of us
with cameras, man. With cameras. Let's get Damien involved, and let's get cameras. Sneak some cameras out of the building or something.
But so we had to settle for a normal variant televised match between you and Adam in the end. But,
but
so how was that whole experience?
Oh, I had the time of my life. It was absolutely great. I mean, this was. I was surprised to be invited, because I was only a semi-finalist in my series compared to most of the other people who were, champions, runners-up, etc. So, I mean, I was surprised to be there, but I was very grateful. It was loads of fun, I have to say. Every time I was being there, because it was just a sort of that kind of scenario where everyone knows each other. Well, more or less everyone there knew each other, because predominantly it was people who were had an online presence, and so there was just this unbelievable sense of, I know it's been described in previous, by previous people as well, but just this sense of just camaraderie. Like in the green rooms, everyone would be, would be watching the games together, and just bantering about what was going on, and saying, oh, you see, that letter could have been that, this and that, all these little things. But it just particularly the because the first rounds were recorded in separate blocks, then the last 16 was recorded as one final recording block. Which I was in, and
that was really good. Then that must have been brilliant.
It was so much fun. Like we were all there together for 3 days, and then just by that point, it was we all pretty much knew each other, and even though I went out in the round of 16 because, but in a way I didn't mind, because just being there was great fun in and of itself, and if I could just kind of relax and enjoy what was going on, because I kind of felt like there was part of me that thought I lost on a tiebreak conundrum in the game that I lost on, so I felt I could have won that.
Looking at that now,
but at the same time, if I had won that, I'd have had to play Connor in the next game, and so if I'd had somehow won that, I just then would have had to this and that. It would just be one, the chance of me actually winning all of these games in a row, that would have been that doesn't feel like it was very likely to happen anyway. So, and just again, all the more credit to Connor for being able to just keep up that level of perfection more or less throughout. I mean, it's really hard to overstate how impressive that is, considering the people
considering the opposition. Considering the opposition. I mean, there was a thread recently there by Owen Jackson about the greatest ever series, but I mean, anecdotally, I know it's not a series, but people still talk about this, don't they, as the sort of the holy grail.
Mm-hmm.
More than Series 69, which maybe I've got. Was Euro 69, weren't you, Callum?
Yeah, I think obviously that was a great series.
Near the top, I think.
It was voted recently as the strongest field in a series ever, or something along those lines. But I think the 30th birthday championship was special, I think, because, like Innis said, the sense of camaraderie you had where everyone knew each other, which I've experienced before. I really enjoyed being in the audience for the most recent Champion of Champions that Zati ended up winning, because we really felt that. I think the previous Champion of Champions that I was playing in was a little bit clouded by the competitiveness.
Yeah.
But I think when there's a little bit of competitiveness to add to the fun, but mostly it's just all about the camaraderie. I think that's where you get the best out of it. And from what I've heard, 30th birthday championship was like that. It was on such a huge scale that
any of you could have won as well.
Yeah. Well, we've got all these people who know each other from events and stuff, and they're now basically coming to do a much bigger version of that, but it's official and it's televised.
And it's a shootout.
Imagine it would be like if you got a group of science fiction enthusiasts from a Comic-Con or something, and then Disney commissioned them to make a Star Wars movie. How they would feel. It's sort of what the countdown has got with the 30th birthday championship. So I wish I had been part of the community at that time, because it must have been truly special to be part of it. Either as a player or a spectator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like the Champions of Champions anyway, because I think you've got to know the people over the last few series, and then you get to see them tested against winners of other series and runners up of other series, and that's as a fan of the show, I really enjoyed watching Tom play Zarte and all those kind of things. They're great matches. You know the people involved, and that adds to it. It's like Manchester United versus Liverpool. You know what's coming, but you're still going to enjoy it.
Yes. And like you say, Callum, the fact that everyone is done in kind of this quite a sort of jovial atmosphere. The fact that no matter who wins, everyone's going to be happy for them. I think that's something like it can add. Superficially, it might add a bit of tension or whatever if there's kind of nerves and needle going on. But I think it's just much more pleasant to watch when everyone is just, like you say, there to have fun. No one's going to be in tears afterwards. No one's going to be heartbroken or anything. There to have fun, and I think it usually comes across.
Yeah. I suppose the important question to ask, one that we shamefully missed when speaking to Ben and Connor last time was there a sweepstake for the 30th birthday championship, and if so, who won?
That's a good question. I seem to remember that there was, and I
must have been, surely
there was. I don't actually remember now. Like, yeah, no, there definitely was. That's incredible. I've completely forgotten about that. Yeah. I mean, I have a vague memory that it might have been Jen Stedman actually. That she certainly had either the winner or a very strong contender, because I think just basically at that point, whenever someone drew, oh right, I've got Connor, so I've got yeah.
It's like getting Brazil in the World Cup sweepstake, isn't it? You're like, yes, nice one.
So you didn't get anyone angrily coming up to you after the second round saying that they were hoping you'd make some money for them.
No, I mean they might have been seething inside, but they had the good tact not to tell me, so that was good.
Come on, don't let me down now. I have a lot riding on you. I have 50 quid on you in this one as well. Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
It's my rent money.
We did one at my Champion of Champions, and I got Giles, and obviously he had a ridiculously close run game with Dylan.
Yeah.
That some people in the audience were upset that Giles lost that because they were super close to Giles. I was upset because it had just cost me £32.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Matty had Dylan, so he won in the end, and he bought Dylan dinner with some of his winnings afterwards.
Oh, that's a very nice gesture.
Yeah, that was a nice touch. I don't know if Connor got the same from Jen or whoever the winner was, but.
Would you have done that, or were you just like, got my £32, I'm out of here?
That's my £32.
Yeah, I might have given him my £2 steak back, but I think I'd have kept the thing. But
quite right.
Yeah, but there you go. That's some cutting-edge journalism there. We always ask the important questions.
You've been dying to ask that one for a while now, I can tell, Callum. That was.
Yeah, I can't believe we didn't think to ask Connor that.
I didn't know to ask, so yeah, you must have heard that on the grapevine over the years.
Yeah, it's the most important question, I think. I'm glad we've got it out of the way.
Well, the most important question, I think, Innis, is what's your earliest memory of Countdown?
It goes back a very long way. Like I must have been only about 4 or 5, and I can remember it being. I remember I got the 9-letter word threading, which I
4 or 5. Wow,
I think so. It was certainly around that sort of age, because I did when I found the Countdown wiki, I went to I'm going to sort of carbon date this memory. I'm going to look up when it is in the thing, and I thought, yeah, there it is. I got that because because it was always my grandfather was religious watcher of it. He'd watch every day, anytime I was visiting him or he was visiting. He'd always just kind of be there. And
was he good?
He was. I think he could have. Yeah, he was.
He provided the genes, did he?
Well, you could look at it that way. He was too modest a man ever to go on TV. So, but I think he could have made big waves. So I like to think I was flying the flag later on.
Excellent. Yeah.
I think it's similar to what other people have said before, but I always had the ability to do it. It was just the not knowing enough words. Like I was always very good at getting 9-letter words. If anything, I found that kind of easier than getting shorter words, because all the letters are there and you can just kind of see it. So I mean, if I think I would have always been good relative to whatever age group I was in, but until I got to the kind of age, whereas mid-teens or whatever, where I actually had the kind of vocabulary that an ordinary person has, plus the addition of Apterous to add on all the stupid words that come up all the time and time again, which makes a big difference, of course, as well. Just to add those into the arsenal as well, then I think that's when I could really start manifesting it. But no, I always kind of it was always something that was just kind of there in the background in my life, and the music and just various random. I think Jack Wellesby was the first time. I think that was when I was maybe about 13, 14. It was the first time I actually got to the point where I actually remember the people now. Rather than just it's just some letters. Isn't that cool? I've got flashing lights and a clock, and isn't that actually noticing these are actually human beings there now and remembering their names. So I remember him.
The debt we owe to our grandparents, but because it's usually our grandparents that get us into this game.
Yes.
Was your grandfather still alive when you went on the show?
Yes, just about. Yes, so it was. So that I was. Yeah, I like to think that kind of would have made him proud at the time. But yeah, no, that was it's a bit Hollywood that in a way. So, yeah, if there's ever a Countdown movie, it's fine. I'm sure this subplot will be developed into something much more. But
yeah, just we need to cast an actor to play you now, Innis. That's the next biggest question.
And your granddad.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So that was how you started, and you obviously ended up going on the show as a young man and dominating Apterous across all the variants for a number of years, dominating co-events for a few years until Jack took over. And then I think in more recent times you've sort of stopped playing as much, although on your occasional sporadic co-event attendances you were still winning. I think you won in Glasgow, and at the first event I hosted in Leeds you won that. So you clearly still had the ability, just weren't playing as much, because I think you were starting to develop some other interests, weren't you? I know you ended up on TV with some of them. So
yes.
Was it quizzing you got into around about that time? Did that take over from Countdown?
Very much. I think it was just kind of became the new kind of outlet for my obsession, which Countdown had very much been through in my early kind of student days. The amount I always shudder to think about the amount of time I must have spent playing on Apterous is probably like mortifying to think about.
Oh, we all do. We all do. Man. I think we all get the guilt, don't we? Really?
Yeah, it's amazing how well it takes over. But like, there came a point where I just, I think I possibly overdid it a bit. Like, I mean, there was a point where like you just kind of now like you burn out slightly, and I started to feel that must have been 2015 or 16, I think, and then. Just like it got to the point where I was on Apterous and I was just kind of like me, as I remember very well, like there would be me and I think Jack Worsley at the time, who was certainly a top ranked player, and then we would play games, but we would both just end every round after 1 second, so like the game would be over in about 3 minutes, because like we're just like, seen that one before, seen that one before, seen that one before, like and like it's just I don't know that. When it gets to that point, it's not really as much fun. So I think I just kind of just took a step back, and as you say, I fell in love with quizzes, which is another thing I've always enjoyed doing. I always watched 15 to 1 on these old quiz shows, but I'd always kind of dreamed of getting better out of myself and just being it was just that just kind of became the new vehicle for it. So I was on Only Connect, which was actually with I actually kind of strangely got on that through Apterous, because the producers of Only Connect put out a appeal for it would be great to have a Countdown team, so that it's a quirky little connection, tell me if you're interested, we'll put you together. So I actually got put together with Ian Volante, he's been on the TV recently.
He's been on very, very recently.
He's a Octochamp from this series.
He's an Octochamp, yeah. I think he's sitting in seed number 2 at the moment.
Yeah, wow. I'm pleased to say that, because I always felt he had potential, because he was another one who went on quite a long time ago before Apterous existed. So it's nice to see he's got a chance to put his practice.
He'd been on the show before.
He had. It was I
hadn't realised that. Right.
He won a few games. This must have been a series 56 or thereabouts, because he beat the young Bradley Cates, who also came back later as in a much. That was your series, wasn't it, Callum? He
was a semi-finalist in Series 69. Yeah.
That's right. Yes, I mean it's funny. It all just seems to intertwine. Like everyone's going back, and but. Yes, Ian beat the young Bradley Cates and won a couple of games, but it's nice to see him back on the screen, voting his potentials, and I don't know what happens in the rest of the series, so I'll be rooting for him, obviously. But anyway, that was a slight tangent. I was on the same team as Ian for Only Connect, and that just kind of, again, gave me a bit of the bug for TV, because by that time, I'd got all my TV nerves out of the way with Countdown, so like I was there looking at this is great, I'm having a great time, and then I thought, I went through a phase of just applying for absolutely everything I could, and I got on University Challenge with my university at the time, Edinburgh, and that was, again, I had the time of my life with that, and strangely that has actually that particular experience has shaped my life ever since, because after I finished university, after a very brief career in the civil service, I actually managed to fulfill my dream and get a job working on University Challenge as a researcher.
Wow.
So I was, so I just, it was like running off to the circus, just abandoning my respectable civil service career, just throwing it all out the window. I thought, going to follow my dream, and packed my bags, moved off to Salford to work as a researcher on that, and that's now the kind of what I'm hoping to do as a career. I'm working on Mastermind now as a question researcher, and that's what brings me to Northern Ireland. That's made over here now. And
where are you living in the north?
I live just south of Belfast city centre. It's which is I've really
kind of Lisburn end kind of thing, somewhere right that way.
Kind of, yeah. It's not quite as far as Lisburn. Yeah, it's only a tiny little bit out of the city centre. But yeah, that kind of area, and it's it's lovely here. I'm here for a year or so, which is like an eternity in TV. That's the one thing about working in TV is you have to like move everywhere all the time, and that can get a bit kind of tiring.
Always have a suitcase packed.
That's it. Yeah, I was you expect to be somewhere for a few months at most, but no, I'm over here now, and all being well, this kind of thing will be in my life. So in a strange sort of way, I guess you can pin that back to Countdown as well. It was what pushed me onto going on the TV show and getting that bug that's kind of driven me ever since. Just to be part of it.
Yeah, I think your story is a shining example of how this game and the community around it can really help to shape people's lives. It's sort
absolutely
of, it becomes, the effect it has on people is bigger than what you would imagine it can provide from the start.
We get more than we put in, don't we? I think.
Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely.
Sort of exponentially. I think really it's
absolutely because to me it's never felt like I've actually put anything in at all. Like, I mean, I know for some people they do the whole thing of I'm going to train, I'm going to memorize word list, this and that, and I'm going to train myself that. I mean, I never kind of did it, and at no point did it ever feel like I was putting anything in. I was just I'm just playing a stupid online game, which is what you do.
You were absorbing it all, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Like, and I just felt like I was procrastinating all the time, and the fact that anything came of it is feels like fraud almost. Like that. I feel like I've got very lucky, but there you go.
Yeah, well, I suppose, like you say, you always had the anagramming ability, and just through a sheer number of games played, and you probably have a natural ability to retain information quite well, what with your quizzing and that. So you've expanded your vocabulary through playing the game, and you've still maintained that spotting ability. So
it is a test of memory, as Elliot was saying on our private chat the other day. I mean, it is we're obviously all good at retaining information.
Yes.
Maybe not the first time, but at least the second time, maybe the third time at least, it will stick.
Yeah. Well, definitely. I think that's why there is such a good overlap between Countdown and quizzing, because they are obviously with Countdown you do need some underlying anagram ability, but a lot of it is information retention.
Yes, absolutely. Like, especially at the top kind of levels where, like, it really does. A game really will just be decided on knowing whether or not you can pluralize this word in the dictionary or that. That you only really get that kind of information from playing Apterous, because you can't really get the minutiae of this dictionary from everyday life. So, it does kind of at a certain level really just become kind of how good is your absorption of that particular dictionary.
Oh no! Like sometimes if I'm playing and I see a word that is unlike any word I'm not sure it's valid, but it's unlike any other word I could have ever seen anywhere else. I know that if not from playing Countdown, how else did this collection of syllables enter my head?
Yes.
If I think I was playing at a Covent and I saw the word talaria with like 3 A's in it, and I thought, that doesn't sound like a word, I must have just made it up.
Yeah.
But then I thought, if I haven't seen that on Apterous or then how would that word enter my head at all? So it must be there, because that's the only reason I would think of it.
Yes.
I'm very much at that stage at the moment, and it was what Connor was saying last month as well. He's like, well, why else would I be thinking of this word if it wasn't a word?
Yeah.
And it's that confidence of just knowing, I don't know why I know this word, but it's a word. And I can't think of any specific examples, but I'm at that stage myself in my own Apterous career of just getting to trust that instinct that says, of course it's a word, why else would you be thinking of it now?
Yeah, I think that's where I have a lot of respect for the quizzes, where I think it might take a little bit more ability on that front than Countdown, because with Countdown, the words that are essentially not even words in your own head, they're just a sequence of letters. They're so esoteric and abstract from meaning that if you think you've thought of this word, it probably is Countdown valid, because how else would you know it? Whereas with quizzing, there is actually some significance and real knowledge attached to the answers you have to recall.
Yes, I think
so. I think that I think it's a somewhat more complex, or impressive to me anyway, skill set than Countdown ability is.
I mean, there are certain elements of the same kind of thing. Like, you will get people who, the classic example is, I mean, what's the capital of Mauritania? That some people can just answer that, but they don't know a thing about Mauritania. Mauritania might as well not be a real country for all they know. And so you get some people who do take that kind of very shallow approach. But I do think you're right that in order to become very good at quizzes, you do have to actually I'm actually going to read about this and get an actual understanding about this. So if something that goes beyond just the very shallow levels like that comes up, right? Yeah, then that'll pay off, and that appeals to me a lot, because I'm always someone who likes to learn, and I imagine most people on Apterous are the same. You got a brain that wants to absorb more information, so this kind of quiz appeals to me that way. In a way, it's kind of like an endless kind of well, and you'll never get to the point where, certainly at the time certainly at my kind of prime on Apterous was the point where the top players had basically completed the game almost. Almost every game would be, they'd spot everything, because all of the sort of top players had just learned all of the words that are more than about that are 99% of the time are gonna make up for it. So to me that was always a bit of a shame. And I like the idea with quizzes that you can kind of keep learning for life. You never get to a point where that's it, I know everything now. You can't possibly ask the evolving. Yeah.
Something that occurred to me, but is an overlap between Countdown and quizzing, is just that trusting of an instinct. Don't overthink something. Your first answer is probably correct.
Mm-hmm.
Do you not find that in quizzing?
Yes, no. It's very often what people say.
If you're unsure, just trust that instinct.
Yes.
and play that answer.
I think that is very true, because your brain operates on ways that you can't always even put into words. Chances are just the fact that it will remember, if you see a question chances are your brain is recognizing certain things just from having seen and associating them with the answer that's now coming to your head in ways that you can't rationalize. If someone asks you to explain it, you're like, why is it that? I'm like, I don't really know, I just think it is. And
never thought
you're right
about it, but yeah,
exactly. I just think it is, and you're right, very often that will turn out to be the right answer. So stick with your gut.
My wife's not a world class quizzer by any stretch of the imagination, but her instinct is brilliant. She's very good at, say, on multiple choice. She is very, very, very good at trusting her instinct and saying B. And the amount of times she is correct is kind of, it's frightening. Mm-hmm. She'd be a great person to have as a sort of second or third member on a team. Maybe not the the one that knows all the stuff, but the one with the best instinct.
Yes, yeah. That
and just learns to trust and go, it's definitely B. Haven't a clue why, it's B.
Yeah,
I like team quizzes for that reason, where people can collaborate like that. I know I think I did a quiz on Apterous once, and I think your team won, Innis. And I remember being very impressed at that, because there were at least 4 or 5 points you gained in that quiz where no one of you on your own could have gained that point.
Yes.
But between the 4 of you, you put your knowledge together, or your skill sets together, or your instincts, and between you reasoned out an answer. So that, I do really like team quizzes for that reason, where it's not just, you know, the cleverest person on the team is contributing the most points, and maybe if they don't know one answer, then someone else will. There might be some questions where no one member of the team could answer the question on their own, but between you can work it out, which I like to see.
I love that too. I remember the quiz. I hope you do more of those in future on Apterous. That's the only thing that ever gets me to log back on Apterous these days, is when someone did one at Christmas as well.
We get him back in the fold now. More quizzing.
But
I'm always writing quiz questions just slowly. I probably write 1 or 2 a month. So when I've got enough to put another full quiz together, I'll let you know.
Please do.
I met Ned Pendleton at Co-Lincoln, who I was very impressed with his quizzing ability.
Yes.
Have you encountered Ned?
Very much. Yes. No, he's an excellent quizzer. Like, he's probably. I've probably lost count of the number of times I've met him, because I used to see him at all the countdown events and all the quiz events as well. You know, he's always there. So yeah, no, we cross paths very frequently, and like you said, no, he is an exceptional knowledge. Yeah, we actually
even with many drinks in him, he was still frightening.
Yes,
it was.
Yes,
yeah, he's got a very impressive mind, that man. For sure.
He has, yeah.
He does. Yeah, there's quite a few, and there's a fair few kind of, as you say, quite a bit of overlap between the countdown and quizzing community. It's like people like Thomas Kappelman is also an excellent quizzer, and Graham Cole is dipping his toes into the worlds of quiz as well. I met him at a quiz tournament.
I didn't know that.
It is, yeah.
Quizzers, watch out.
Yeah, so I think there's a certain overlap, but I mean, I absolutely agree with you. I think there's something wonderful about just like when you have a team of people and you can work together. Those my dream, my ideal night out is always a pub quiz. You know, I go to those so often because it's fun to play, but also be just like you really kind of bond with people. You know. That kind of way you get to know what they know, what they think, what their little strange pockets of knowledge that they wouldn't admit to having otherwise are. Yeah, and and you
get to play in a team. I think for someone who plays individual pursuits or sports like we do, that team element is so attractive.
Yes, it is. It's absolutely great. You know, and it
gives you a fuzzy feeling inside, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. And then if you win at the end, like, you know, people are celebrating with you, like, it's, you know, it really adds something to it, I think. So yeah, I've still very much got the quiz bug at the moment.
So quizzing has sort of taken over from Countdown, certainly in terms of playing for you over the past few years. But you have hosted a number of events, haven't you? Like we've spoken about Manchester recently, but I think you've hosted at least one event for the past 5 years or so now with Milton Keynes, with Zate. You did the first Newcastle event with James, and Edinburgh with Zate, and now Manchester with some assistance from Zate, and you're coming back later this month for Newcastle again, I think, are you?
Yeah, that's right. And I always I always really have got certain kind of enjoyment out of running things, even though that has actually carried on, even if I haven't been playing. Like, it was always because it only kind of started out because Zarte and myself, you know, we used to just love running projects together. You know, it's like we'd always do. Like we used to run a very you remember it, Callum, a very silly adaptation of the TV reality series The Mole on Apterous, which is a bonkers idea in hindsight, but it was a lot of fun to do. And like so we used to just, you know, that was kind of what we do to spend time together, is just like kind of organize things, and then we was like, we'll organize a co-event, why not? And so we did put together this one in Milton Keynes, which is where he lives, and that just seemed to go unexpectedly well. Like, you know, it's one of those things that behind the scenes it felt like a shambles. It felt like, you know, we're just making this up as we go along, and it's going to be a complete joke. But like as long as you don't tell the people attending that, then they will just politely assume that, you know, it's a good event until they'll come along. And
put it on and they will come is the old phrase, isn't it? I mean, you think, it's never going to happen. Put it on, book it, put the shovel into the ground, whatever. You make the first step.
Yes.
And people complete the project.
Yes.
Once you've drawn a good outline, people will fill in the gaps.
Absolutely. It's so true. And like, you know, I think just as long as you kind of put it on, and I always just kind of believe, no matter how much of a disaster it is behind the scenes, just kind of, you know, keep up, you know, put on a positive outward face, and, you know, just like make it seem like this is something people will want to come to, and then, you know, people will come, and then that self-fulfills itself. It makes it a success. And loads of people came to the first Milton Keynes. It was at the time, I think, the most well-attended event that ever been. That's now been surpassed by London, which is enormous. But at the time it was. So I thought, we should keep doing that. And then I've started to expand out a bit. Let's say we did one in Edinburgh, which you're gonna carry on the mantle of doing ones in Edinburgh, which I'm very pleased to hear. And and I've also been helping James as well, which with Newcastle, which is I'm also, this is great fun to be part of. You've also, I know you've also worked with him as well. You know that, like, I think the events he does they're very different from the ones that the likes of me or Zarta might run in. That, you know, ours is kind of organized chaos, whereas James is very much kind of, you know, he is very pristine, you know, so that, you know, he's really polished it, you know, he's got this, you know, very impressive looking graphics, and everything's very well planned. So I think they're always great fun. So it's fun to be involved in that as well. But it's
so for our listeners, anyone thinking of attending, do you want to give them the details of how they can attend Newcastle this year?
Certainly. I mean, so we're it's going to be on. I want to make sure don't get the date wrong before I say it on there. So I'm just gonna very glad. Yeah,
I think it's the 28th.
Yes, it is. It's Saturday the 28th of March, so it's just at the end of this month. James Robinson is the man to get in touch with if you'd like to reserve a space. But it's going to essentially, it's in fairly central Newcastle. We've got this social club, which is the same place that it was held last year, but it's a very nice kind of place, and it's not the kind of event where you sit in three and you know deal each other the cards, this and that, like, for example, Manchester was, or Lincoln or other one was. This is the kind of event where everyone's looking at a big screen together and you're all playing along with the same letters rounds, and you know it works on that sort of basis, and so it's a very communal kind of feel to it. So it's that kind of thing, but I think certainly the one Newcastle I was involved with before, I couldn't make it last year, but the one I was on before was an absolutely great event. You know, a really nice atmosphere to it, and, you know, everything goes very smoothly, and, you know, it's a very fun thing to be part of. And you yourself it was you that stepped in last year, wasn't it, Callum, to help with that one. So I mean, you know about as you know as well as me how they have ongoing in the past, but I just think James is a phenomenally good host. He absolutely puts he puts his heart and soul into it, and everything just, I think, goes very smoothly, and it's a very enjoyable day. So
it gets under your skin, this game, doesn't it? But I mean, it ropes you in. You plan on just coming and going on the TV, and then you get, you know, you get landed podcasting and hosting events, and things like that. Everyone sort of gets given a job, don't they? They're like, okay, right, you're in now. We have you.
Yes,
you're not going anywhere until they go, okay, I'm going to have to retire now and do quizzing, and someone else is going to have to take over. It seems to be your only escape route. Is to do something else.
Even then, I haven't really managed to escape, have I? So I'm still.
We'll get you back in.
It's the Hotel California, I think, isn't it?
Yes, that's it. I was looking for that phrase. That's it. You can never leave.
I know certainly with James, his passion for the game is just incredible over so many years. It's really great to see just the genuine, unbridled joy that a game can give someone, and you can definitely see that with James.
Absolutely, you know, it's so charming, like, and the fact that, you know, I don't know, I lost count of how many events he's involved with. It's way more than me, but you know, he's still, you know, he never loses his drive to do it, and he still wants to make every single one, you know, the best one yet, and like, yeah, if you're ever in the room when James wins a co-event, then you get a sense of how enthusiastic he is. But
yeah, I was in the room at Milton Keynes when on the same day James Robinson won the co-event and Huddersfield Town went to the top of the league table.
That's right. Yes.
Did he have to lie down for a while?
Yes.
Yeah. I like that enthusiasm, but I think it's good, and it's good. It's good that folk are trying to up the ante. I mean, as someone who's put on a lot of events, you know, you could probably see the incremental changes and, you know, the way things have changed over the years. And I mean, I'm going to be doing my first co-hosting with Eddie in Dublin in August. If you're still in Ireland, we'd love to see you.
Oh,
or if you're not, get your flights booked nice and early, because you know, Dublin, it could be dear.
Yeah.
But it's that little, you know, and I'm going to try and put my own little stamp on it and little things like that, just to carry the progress forward all the time, and, you know,
I think
to give people a reason to come back and just try and make it a little bit unique, and you know, so
I think that's you know, I think that's what all the best organisers do, and I kind of like that about sort of countdown events compared to a lot of other things where everything's kind of very, you know, it's like the obvious comparison is like Scrabble tournaments where everything's regimented, and, you know, you do this and you have to do everything this way. Like, I mean, you know, countdown, you know, there's not like a overarching kind of worldwide organization that tells us how to do everything. You know, you can kind of just do things as you want.
Not yet. We'll organise one someday.
Well, well, for now, yeah. Until that dystopian future comes, then like, you can kind of just do things how you want to do them, and you can, you know, add little things in. You know, like, it seems to be a trend for people to do little kind of, you know, spoofs of other game shows in the midst of co-events, and make the jump to 10-letter conundrums, which is something I'm very fond of myself.
Me too. You're preaching to the converted here, but I mean, I just know from being on the Facebookers group, certain people would see that as complete anathema.
Initially, it was because it's
like having two pinks in a game of snooker or something. That's the way they'd see it.
Yes, I would only make one complaint about 10-letter conundrums. It's that I would like them to be even longer. But
you like your 12s, don't you? Yeah.
I'm with you on that, Callum. Our time will come where it'll be, you know, 14s.
Yeah. But one day it might be just me and you, Innis, at the 2-person event. But you know,
yes, I'll come, guys. I'll come.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah. We've got enough for
That's a table. We've got a table right there.
Yeah, you need someone to beat, like. So.
Yes, and I just think I'm pleased that's beginning to become accepted as a way of doing it. It was the first time that we did it. It was myself and Zarty at Milton Keynes were like, because we'd both secretly been thinking for a long time, you know, it would just be better this way. It would be some more different. It would be more kind of it would, as I think Connor put it last time, it would go back to the times of it being, you're just trying to find a word. It's not kind of like, right, I remember this selection of 9 letters.
Yeah, I know all the Ascension conundrums and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly, which, you know, I think takes something of the joy away from it. So I'm all in favour of
I'm only starting to see that now. I'm only getting to that stage where I can see that, you can eventually get to remember them all.
Yeah.
Yes.
Through time, but and you want that fresh challenge of a 10
Absolutely.
or a 12.
Yeah, I know. It was a strange kind of feeling for me when it was almost like a Santa Claus kind of moment on Apterous where I just kind of started to realize, this is how, because I remember being blown away. Was back in Conor Travers was on TV, his Champion of Champions. He had a excellent semi-final, but I just remember watching it, and him and his opponent both got protamine as a 9-letter word. And I was just like, they both just so nonchalantly got it, and to me that just like black magic. What, like, this is even in chemistry terms, this is an obscure word. How is it that both of you knew this word and managed to just happen to see it, and then it seemed like, wow, I'm watching wizards in action here, and like, so it was a little bit of a kind of kind of Santa Claus-esque moment where I was done enough Apterous. No, actually, no, anyone can kind of do that, Like, if it's just a matter of, like, you just play it so many times and words like that.
You've seen
up.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
I can proudly say I've played that word before, I think.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I had a similar experience, actually. I think that the only series finals games I'd ever seen before I went on Countdown was the final of your series, Innis. So I'd now only missed watching your game before I went on. But I remember, I think it was the very first round of the final, and I thought, I bet these guys are really good then if it's the finals. And they asked what they both had, and they both had 8, and the first one said, it might have been 7, I can't remember if it was a single or the plural, but they had Woomera.
Yes, that's right.
Which Susie defined as an Aboriginal boomerang or something.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's amazing. I wonder what word the other guy has. And he just casually said, oh yeah, the same.
Yeah.
And showed his paper. And I thought, I don't think I've ever met 2 people in my life who've heard the word Woomera. And here there's there's only 2 people in the chairs, and they both both know it.
I'm a lot older than you guys, and I'd never heard of it. I still never heard of it.
I think that's one of those words that I once heard years later in some context. That you get that kind of, hey, excellent, there's that word in its real natural habitat. How exciting!
Yeah.
Bit like Woonerf. Woonerf, is that one of your words?
Woonerf and Woonerven. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You're not going to come across those words really.
No.
In the old real life.
No, especially like, I mean, I don't want to get on a soapbox here, but I do worry that since like the dictionary expanded a few years ago, and like to have this whole new batch of words, which I always think that goes too far. Like, there are some words that literally are never used. Like, I mean, are not. Yeah. Like, they were, jokingly used by some philosopher poet in the 1700s once. So therefore, that's it. That's a word now. Like, I mean, I don't know.
Yet at the exclusion of so many common, say, Ulster Scots words like claried. It was claried and muck. Claried is not in the dictionary, but you know what claried means, and I know what claried means.
Yes, exactly. And people say it. It's a word that people using this language say.
Gets said all the bloody time. As Ulster Scots, common word. Very, very, very common. I'm sure you hear it all the time in Belfast.
Yes, you do. Exactly. And
meanwhile, you've got a ridiculous amount of words in. Like, I think most of these were removed after someone realised the error. But at one point, I think there were 7 different spellings of regional dialect variations of the word for a 17th century orchard.
Oh. Yes.
And meanwhile, these everyday words. I think the most common gripe now is uploader or re-upload.
What was that? What was that orchard word?
I might be getting confused because they're all just meaningless strings of letters to me. But I think it was the one that remains in is outrake, which sounds like it's a it sounds like it's a verb to do some better leaf.
It's an outrake. It's like a meadow or something, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but there was like outriac and outrike and it's like this is what they called it in Birmingham in the 17th century, but this is what they called it in
Afrikaans.
Sound
like Afrikaans words, yeah.
It was
like Outlander, and
it was a bit ridiculous.
Yes, I mean that was the absolute, the penny call. Thankfully, that one seems to have been changed now. But like, I just kind of worry that generally, like, it gets to the point where enough of these words are going to come up enough that like it just takes it that little step away from being kind of a test of vocabulary and just being kind of like which strings of you remember. And I think it can fuel this perception.
I might argue against that because I think English is a massively broad church, and are most of these new words, are they not the sort of the foreign sort of borrowed words, and the words that show their path into English, into usage?
Some are, yeah.
Yes.
Some are, some aren't, yeah.
It maybe tests more your sort of etymological skills.
Yeah, I think it's more an issue of consistency on how. I swear at one point when they imported a lot of words into the dictionary, they did it from a certain section of the complete ODE. So there was, of the however many tens of thousands of words imported, something like 50% of them began with the letter M.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had a word that was very obscure, that you could genuinely make a tactical calculation on whether or not to declare it based on which section of the dictionary it came from in terms of alphabetical order as to how likely it was to be in.
So they opened the book at the middle and said, right, these 20
if
pages.
If they want to just use the full, Oxford Dictionary of English that records pretty much every word that has ever been used in the English language, then I suppose fair enough. At least it's consistent, although it will be chaos. But if they want to use half of it and then half of the other half of the lexicon is a more restricted dictionary, that's when it gets a bit hairy.
There'd be very few max games, wouldn't there, if it was the full...
Well, max games have noticeably decreased since the online dictionary. As Innis was speaking about earlier in his day, if Innis and Jack were to play 10 games against each other on Apterous, and at least one of them didn't get a max game or two, you'd wonder what went wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays it's obviously there are still some people like Jack Elliott and Rob who get max games with alarming regularity, but it's not what it used to be.
No, it's certainly harder now, and I feels like I'm sort of wanting my cake and eating it, because I was saying earlier, it used to be bad that people were getting max games, and now it sounds like I'm complaining that it's changed. But I think in principle, I think having a larger dictionary, I think there's a case to be made for that. A bit like what you say, but I would, if they were going to add words, it would be nice to see them be kind of ones that reflect usage, like you say, like some of the Ulster Scottish words, or just some of the neologisms, this and that. I think you could. I'd be all in favour of expanding it for that, but I don't. Yeah, the point you make, Callum, is certainly, I don't know if maybe this has been fixed now, but certainly in the early days of that dictionary expansion, you could you would just search for new words on the online dictionary. You do out and then the letter P and there'd be none, and then you do out and the letter R and there'd be thousands. Because that was the cut-off point where they'd started pasting all these words, so you'd get out. Not these complete nonsensical words that no one ever said, but I think
it was the same with as well. M was very popular, so you could have unmouldy. If your food wasn't mouldy, then it was unmouldy food. Yeah. But there were other. I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but there were other words that you might actually hear someone use.
But I was thinking about this the other day. There are plenty of times where you would use in a sort of figurative sense, where you would describe how someone had failed to do something, so you would describe it as whatever. It might not be a word, but you could use it in a sort of spoken sense. It was untingly, for example.
Well, that's one of the fun bits.
Was it tingly? No, it was completely untingly.
Yeah, but I think part of the fun of language is, people can use it like Lego or Meccano to sort of make their own words out of it, and when you then sort of officially put them in the lexicon, it sort of removes a bit of the fun creative element to it, and sort of like untingly, for example, it's not a real word. Sorry, we all know that, but it's something.
But you could use it in a real sense. You could have a real conversation with that word.
Yeah, I suppose kind of. Yeah, I don't really know. I mean, I do sort of take your point. In a way, Countdown is kind of by its very nature, any word game with a restricted word list is kind of antithetical to that. I always would like to, it would never happen, but I would always be curious to see if Countdown just decided. On the spot, we're going to just use a different dictionary. We're not.
That would be so interesting.
It would. Yeah, they're not going to tell you which one, but it's a dictionary of the English language, and then suddenly that would just completely throw a cat among the pigeons. Apterous would go oh crap. Well, now I'm going to have to stick to words that I know are actual everyday words because I can't guarantee that my obscurities will be in now. So.
Yeah, I remember that from when I was. In between filming my heat games and my final, I was at sixth form at the time, and we were sort of just hanging out in the common room one day, and some friends wanted to test me and play some Countdown with me. So I was okay to go along that, because I was really in the throes of my Countdown obsession at the time. Mm-hmm. So they started getting a letters generator or something on their phone, and they were like, oh, we need a dictionary to check it, and he said, oh, what shall I use? So I said use Oxford, and the guy said, oh, I've got Cambridge, is that okay?
Yeah.
And I was aware there was a lot of expectation on me to impress them and get some good words. And I just went into this blind panic like I was going to be exposed as a fraud. Because all these words I know, what if they're not in Cambridge? And it really sunk in at that point how we might like to think that we're really good at anagramming words, but we are really learning a very select lexicon of strings of letters like code, and if you take that safety rug out from underneath us, then we're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, certainly we wouldn't be like at the point of being like, oh, I'm just perfect games, this and that. This feeling of like, I'm an absolute omniscient knowing of all words. Kind of, certainly the feeling of being at that kind of level is artificial. That depends on what we're doing, but I like to think that, I would be interested to see. I like to think that most top players would kind of rise to the top in any circumstance. What I like to see is, also what I like to say is that something they do on the French countdown, which is they have bonus rounds that have proper nouns as the answer,
I saw that on when Jeff Clayton was on the French countdown.
Yes.
One of his conundrums was Kurt Cobain.
Yes,
because it's someone's name. It's a name
which
that everyone knows.
10 letters as well.
Perfect. Yeah. Next, if there's ever a Milton Keynes again, I'm going to be lobbying for that. Just like famous people's names are the conundrums.
I do a pub quiz most weeks where there's nearly always a question that is an anagram of an actor's name, and always my team turns to me and like, okay, this is your question, and I can normally get it, but it's a lot harder than I would expect it to be. Like once at that pub quiz, they had what was meant to be the hardest question of the week, and it said, what is the only word in the English language that is an anagram of diametric? So I just immediately turned to him and went, oh, it's matricide. How did you work that out so quickly? I didn't.
Just knew it.
Already knew it. But then there was an anagram that turned out to be Humphrey Bogart, I think, and that took me about 5 minutes to work out.
Well, that's quite a lot of letters as well.
Yeah, because
it's like 14.
Yeah, and even Humphrey and Bogart on their own, they're no good for countdown, so that one wasn't.
Bogart is, just for the record, but
I suppose Bogart is,
but yes, no, you're right, and I want to see a tournament where all the top Apterites, like have to do anagrams of that nature, and we'll find out kind of who's got the most kind of just pure, for want of a better word, anagramming ability, as opposed to just knowing this particular lexicon very well.
Well, I think your 10-letter conundrums are gonna be interesting, just for that reason.
Yes, I'm
interested in here. Sheet, didn't we? At Manchester, you had a puzzle sheet of words that aren't valid, but for a certain reason, whether they're proper nouns or whatever.
That's right.
Definitely tested a slightly different skill set, or at least a different approach to using your skill set.
Yes, no, I wish I could have actually seen it, gone around and seen how people were doing with that at the time. I thought that might be a fun kind of diversion. But that's what I was kind of hoping to, challenge, because I can't just do like a list of ordinary conundrums. People would just rattle right through those. So give those. So for example, they would be like the answer would be, I don't know. One of them was like Pygmalion, the name of this is, that's a very hard one example, but that's like it's a mythological character in a play, but like
quiz anagrams almost done.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather you can anagrams.
You can look at it that way, and then on some of them were just like phrases, kind of things like third rate. That's that's a phrase. That people know that phrase, but could you unscramble that? So. Yeah, that's why. How did you get on with that?
Okay, I did okay on some of the American ones, and on the 2-word ones, like I got, I think there was one that was life force and a few things like that. I did okay on them. There was one category I really struggled with. I can't remember now which one it was. I know I did okay in the American and the 2-word ones.
so there was proper nouns, and then there was like just sort of Scrabble words, like words.
The Scrabble words I was okay on, because I normally do okay playing the Scrabble ones, because with that I just effectively play countdown. But if I think, I'm not sure if that's a word, I just go for it with Scrabble.
Yeah, and chances are it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was the proper nouns I struggled with.
Yes,
I got one or two, but I really struggled with that one.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, Innis, do you watch the show much these days? Are you a fan of the show to watch?
Occasionally, I usually try to watch series finals when they come around. I certainly don't watch regularly, just because, it's like with everyone at the moment, it's on at a time of day where you can't really just watch it as it's going out. But I like to, certainly if there's someone like that I know very well who's going to be on, or I usually try to watch finals when they come around, and those have been some very exciting things. I enjoyed it. Also, there was the one with Dinos and Elliot was very exciting, and then there was one with Mike Daisley and Martin May.
Martin, yeah,
that's right. And those were good fun to watch. But no, it's just I just never really quite get around to it in the same way that I used to would make a point of catching up with it all the time. It's just a matter of time.
Is that any reflection on the show, or just that's just your life? Your life is just not organised to catch it.
Well, I mean, I don't want to start turning into negative Nancy kind of thing. I mean, I did prefer.
No, we're going to have a conversation. We're going to have a conversation on the show as part of this episode. We were hoping to get a researcher on the show, but there was a lot of red tape regarding that. I think they were slightly nervous as to what they would say, and maybe that the person involved didn't have the sort of the sign off to be able to speak. Yeah, but I'm just interested. I'm just interested in sort of people who are fans of the show, people who have a history of the show. How do they view has the show changed over the years? Has it got better? Has it got worse?
I mean, I feel it has changed. To me, it's not against any particular person. I like Nick, I like Rachel, and there seems to be certainly from when I was younger, I remember there being kind of this sort of countdown had a sort of kind of it had lots of in jokes. It was full of jokes, this and that. It was kind of all kind of a sort of pantomime-y kind of thing to it. There was just that was kind of thing. So. And it had this whole little mythology kind of within it, so you could watch it along, and even if the actual game itself was not a very interesting one, there'd still be little things to kind of amuse you in it. It doesn't.
It was quirky. It was more quirky than it maybe is now. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly it. It had a sort of that. It was very famous as sort of kind of a cult favorite in that sort of way.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel to me recently that's quite there so much. It kind of Nick tends to just kind of just go on with it. Occasionally there'll be these little isolated conversations about what's in the news or that, but then it kind of just tends to just go along, and and then
feels a little formulaic to me at times. I think that opening segment.
Yes,
it's a little bit American, a little bit hi folks, welcome to the show kind of thing. It's that kind of opening joke kind of thing, isn't it? Have you heard the one about the priest and the barmaid or whatever?
Yes, exactly. Or today is International Paperclip Day.
I find that very staid and very sort of predictable. And I'm interested. I mean, I find the editing is not as maybe good as it used to be in terms of getting to know the personalities on the show.
Yes.
I mean, you have 8 days to get to know an Octochamp, and I personally feel there could be a little bit more information elicited from that champ every day, so that by the end of the 8 days you get to know them, and you know what they're into, and maybe you know what football team they support, and so by the time the quarterfinals comes around, you're invested in them, and maybe he's your favourite or she's your favourite to win.
Yes, I think that's very true. Yeah, I think Jeff was good at that. You could always tell he was making an effort to kind of he'd have something he'd ask them a different question every day, so it's just kind of yesterday you got 103, that's a good score, isn't it? Okay, you're just right. I think it also
Nick tends to ask you things that there's no response to, or that the response is a yes or a no.
Yes. Yes,
there's not much leading. There's not much eliciting of information from the contestant, and I think the contestants are the stars of the show.
I think so.
Whereas they sort of don't feel like it anymore. They sort of feels like the guest is the star.
Yes, I think that's fair to say, and whilst there is an appeal to just have the game itself, and it's a little brain exercise, this and that. I do think the show benefits when there is, like you say, when your personalities come into a bit more, let's say, or kind of like just when there are little kind of just like running jokes or something going along, like the contestant really loves I don't know, dogs or whatever, and then there's a dog will come up and that's not a very funny example.
I know what you mean, but little things that just sort of keep that refers to yesterday, and do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, do you remember the easy 9 you missed the other day? There was Labrador or something, or whatever, Labradors or something, you know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I'd kind of like to see more of that.
Because ratings are down. I mean, there's obviously a reason. I mean, we live in the 21st century. TV's not king anymore. Just like music, people have many more distractions.
Yes,
they're not sitting down to watch it live anyway. So I mean that obviously has a massive effect on the viewing figures.
It does, yeah.
I'm not sure. Do they include recordings?
Certainly. I know that they will include certain things like the Channel 4 on demand, this and that. I mean, I'm sure that will be factored in, but they certainly. If it's like actual recordings, they'll miss that. And I think viewing figures are just generally down, and that's partly because of the slot countdown used to be on about 4:30 thereabouts. Now it's on about 2:00, which very few people.
It doesn't include school kids at all, the young ones, and I worry about that a little bit. I mean,
me too.
As someone who's been a fan of the show since the very beginning, I remember show 1 that. Yeah, it just doesn't. As you say, it doesn't seem as cult or niche as it sort of used to be, or quirky, and that little thing where it was sort of funny to talk about, or it's a little bit more of a sort of professional show now. I think
so. Yeah,
I think it's maybe lost some of its quirkiness, and
I think so.
Cachet.
It must have been, you'll have been able to judge having been there, but it must have just, for me, the idea that would be the first program on Channel 4 must have just seemed so bizarre. It's not like a big fireworks celebration new channel. It's just kind of we're gonna sit and do some sums now. It always seems like such a bizarre choice, but it must have been good in its own quirky way. I think so I don't know. Is that
Channel 4 is a beast these days. I mean, it formed Channel 4, really, didn't it? It's its first success, I suppose. Maybe then Brookside and things like that. But
that's it. I think it's like the one thing that's still going from the very start.
And as a fan, I worry for its future in that regard. I hope it can maintain that sort of sense of quirkiness.
Yes,
so maybe can get back to that and sort of get back to what made the show to be so cult as it was.
Yes, I would like to see that. There's people often also bring up the fact that some people, some viewers are put off when you get these completely one-sided games, which again, I don't no one person should feel they're to blame for such things when they happen, but it does seem now more that you get kind of games that are 120 plays, I don't know, 10 or this or that, which those are not very fun to watch. I don't really know what can really be done about that. It's just kind of the way it is. But I can understand people would say that's just kind of because I'm kind of relieved. I would have felt very uncomfortable if such a game happened if I was on, if any of my Heat games had ended like that. I'd have just found that very uncomfortable. Thankfully, my opponents all put up. They were all fairly competitive games, but
they all scored. Yeah.
That's no one had to go away feeling like, oh, this was a terrible mistake. I wish I hadn't done this. But it's the kind of thing I can say. But I certainly don't think any players should have to feel guilty about it happening. It's not your fault. It's just kind of a consequence of the format. It's unfortunately
if you run into a really good player,
yes, it is, and and so I don't know. So we should bring the call aspect, and we should also just randomly change the dictionary every day. That's my recipe for success.
Yeah. Or 12 letters.
Yes, that's it.
I mean, that's in certain examples that might make it even more one-sided, but it'll be something different at least.
For now, it would be good. Yeah, no doubt. I'm sure the likes of Elliot and Jack will eventually just learn all the 12-letter words, but but for the immediate time, it'd be I think it would really stir things up.
You guys are still top. Your guys are still top of all those record pages. So.
Nah.
I think he's stolen quite a few of your records of late, Innis, but you're still fairly up there now for quite a few of them. As someone who has been trying to sort of make a mark on the hyper stats, but it's hard. Well, it's bloody hard.
I think you've definitely made your mark there. Like I say, with you and Adam in particular, anyone who's only joined Apterous in the most recent couple of years might not have seen either of you online very much, but if they've looked at the high scores of the hypervariants, they certainly know both your names. So you've got a legacy there, for sure.
That's nice to know. Well, I made my mark. Yeah. Someone has to. This is just a personal thing. The only thing that occasionally tempts me to sign up again is because it drives me crazy that hyper nasty conundrum attack. The record of that is 19 out of 20, and it has been for years. And why someone's got to get 20 out of 20 in that. Come on.
I was tempted to really go for that until the big dictionary update came in, and it on nasty variants in particular, because I believe the way they work is it literally just trolls the dictionary for any unique word of that length. And now there's so much more. Yeah, I mean, hyper nasty conundrums, for those of you who haven't played them, have always been extremely difficult. But since the dictionary update, it's even harder. That's not to say it can't be done. I would never say that.
I don't think I've got more than 10 in the normal hypernundrum.
I don't think there's I don't think there's anything I would say can't be done, given some of the feats we've seen from certain members of the community. But it's harder now than it ever has been, and it was always hard. But
you're right.
That'll keep me going this week now. Failing consecutively at that. Now that'll keep me going.
Yeah. Okay. So that's Innis Carson. For those of you who didn't know him, I hope you've enjoyed listening to our conversation with us, and thanks again for joining us, Innis.
Great chatting with you, Innis.
It's been great fun to be here, so thanks for asking me.
Yeah, well, I'll see you at Newcastle, and if either of us are in Belfast any evening, we'll shove it to find a pub quiz to join you at.
Hit me up, absolutely.
That's it.
Yep. Okay, thanks, Innis.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was Innis Carson. That was a fabulous interview. We both really enjoyed doing that.
Absolutely.
And he raised some interesting points regarding the show and things I suppose we had wanted to talk about anyway this month, Callum. The original plan was to get a researcher from the show to come on and maybe to explain things from their end. But I mean that's hit a little bit of red tape, and we're not sure why. Whether the person we had in mind was maybe underqualified, didn't have the authority to speak for ITV Studios. Maybe ITV Studios got a little bit of cold feet about it. Maybe they want to wait and see how this podcast takes off before they would commit. But we had assured them that we were willing to abide by any preconditions that they had, that we're not looking to reveal secrets of the show. We were more looking to provide an insight into what contestants can expect when they go on the show, maybe when they have their audition, and what happens when you go for filming, how long it takes, and maybe maybe things just like what do they look for, what is the show looking for in its contestants. And something I've noticed recently, and it has come up in our Facebook group, is there seems to be a sort of glut of number specialists.
Right.
And when I think back to sort of the show in yesteryear, it was more verbose people, more wordsmiths. I don't know whether you found that.
I think definitely if you go way back in Countdown history, there was a lot more wordsmiths about, because I think a lot of them bled through from the Scrabble scene. There's always been a very strong field of Scrabble players in this country, and while the dictionaries maybe slightly different, less different then than they are now. The skills were very much transferable, if not the same. So you got a lot of Scrabble players coming through who were then, seen as letter specialists, or you just get people with very good vocabularies and very well read people. I think maybe part of that is in the decline of reading in our culture.
That could be true.
Yeah,
that could be very true. And writing, spelling.
Yeah,
we have spell check.
Yeah, now in the digital age,
and that's a bit of a prerequisite for this game, isn't it? When you think of anyone who's good at this game, they're all great spellers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think that is it's a prerequisite, isn't it? Where you're not asked to provide your spelling unless there's doubt on the show. But
no,
you just get the impression that most people who are good at it are naturally very good spellers.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe there's not. Maybe that channel is not feeding in anymore.
Perhaps not, no. But then you could make the same analysis of arithmetic ability, because you'd expect that again with the digital age and now everyone's got a calculator in their pocket on their smartphones. You would expect that arithmetical ability might have declined somewhat, but it doesn't seem to have. We still seem to have a lot of really good numerists. So.
Well, there are. I mean, I get the impression that there are a lot of good numbers players, and we had it. Was it James Houghton had said maybe that there was ads up in his college.
I think
in the maths department.
I think he said something along those lines. Whether it was an email or an advert or something went out. I don't know whether it came from ITV Studios directly or just an enthusiast, but definitely they were specifically targeting maths students or maths graduates to get on the show. Yeah.
And I think, when you look at the show years ago, even if let's just stick to 15 round era, it used to be 3 numbers games.
Yeah.
And now it's 4.
Yeah.
So now there are 40 points for numbers where previously there would have been 30. So maybe there's more of an emphasis on the numbers.
Yeah, and maybe I'm. This might be a controversial point. I might be striking at some people's loyalties here, but I think that it seems to me anyway that Rachel Riley has more of a passion for the numbers game than Carol Vorderman. It seems to me, and I think she definitely I wouldn't say she encourages
she's got
players.
More disciples. Is that what you mean?
I think, yeah. Well, I think she's obviously very well followed online on social media and that. But just when she's hosting the game, she's definitely, if she doesn't encourage players to pick the more obscure numbers picks like 6 small and 4 large, she's definitely noticeably pleased when someone does. You can tell that. That's what she wants.
She barely hides it. Yeah, and she barely hides her boredom at 1 large, and she does try and encourage you. Yeah. I think that could be an important point.
Yeah. So
she does love it. She has a passion for it.
Yeah, and I think that does sort of challenge both players and just viewers of the show to see the numbers game as something to make challenging and then overcome, rather than just to try and get it out of the way and make it easy so that you can solve it. So
I suppose my biggest problem with it is the fact that it's only 40 points a game. You see that, and I think if you find you come up against a really good player, a guy who is a good letter specialist, that contestant 2 will get their 40 points maybe in the numbers, but that might be all they get.
It's true, yeah. Although 40 points is quite a lot.
Because they might just be 1 letter short in each of the other sort of say 10 rounds.
Yeah.
So they might score very few points on the letters, but get their 40.
If there's a big disparity in letters ability between the players, then you would always favour the the more skilled letters player. But if there's just a small disparity, then having a numbers advantage can make a huge difference. Especially if you ignore for a moment the possibility of getting a 9, then winning a numbers round is is worth more than winning one letters round. So
that's right. Yeah,
it happens plenty of times where there's a game and each player wins one round off the other, and they draw the other rounds. They scored the same number of points. But so you would say that overall they've performed equally, but one player would win because they won on a numbers round and scored 10 points rather than got a 7 or 8 from a letters round. It happened to me in my series quarter final against Jen. I think we both took 2 rounds off each other. She got 2 letters rounds off me. I got 1 letters round and a numbers round. And then I think I won by 3 points
because of the numbers.
When technically, if you look at it in terms of maximums or rounds won, we were equal. I didn't actually play any better than her. It was just because of the scoring system favouring numbers rounds. That's just an example that's obviously clear to me, but there's plenty of more examples of that nature. So 40 points
it's just an impression, I suppose. Just an impression that's been sort of garnered quite recently. I'd say. I think people are, some of the members of the Facebook group would be older than myself, would have memory of the game right from the start, and would remember probably better than me the sort of the vintage players who used to be brilliant on the letters, and then maybe a little, sorry, I didn't get the numbers.
Yeah,
you'd find that it was the rarity that the person was a number specialist. You would remember them almost. Whereas now you'd sort of remember the letter specialists more. You used to find that a lot, where people would be really good at the letters, and it came to the numbers, and they both looked at each other and went, "No, I didn't get it. Did you?" No.
Yeah.
And there was no. They were both kind of happy about that, because we're not really good at the numbers. And then the odd week there'd be some guy come in and he'd be amazing at the numbers and be like, "Oh, you've no chance against him." And even Carl would be talking about it. I have nothing to do today because this guy's a whiz.
Oh yeah, and I know it was definitely my expectation around the time I went to film, and when I was watching it a lot. You would try and beat Dictionary Corner in some of the rounds. There would be quite often you'd hear a player get a really good word, and Susie would say, "Oh, fantastic, we didn't have that." Whereas nearly every numbers round, unless it was an easy one, you were there to watch Rachel perform and see how well she would do, and be overawed by her. Whereas now, it seems Dictionary Corner beat the players by a point or 2 every single round almost.
Pretty much every round, unless you're looking at a really top player who's maxing everything. Yeah.
Although, to be fair, I don't think that's just that the players maybe have fallen off a bit. I think Dictionary Corner have gotten a lot better over the past few years,
and the dictionary's got a lot bigger as well. And when you're sitting with a laptop, that's maybe going to tell you some of the obscure maxes. You're maybe Although the rumor says she doesn't use that. She doesn't use it for that.
Oh no, the laptop.
The maxes aren't displayed in front of her.
No,
she still only has to find her own words.
Oh yeah, that's definitely true. The only thing the laptop is there for is to check words in the same way that the dictionary used to be there.
Because I think she just has the Oxford Dictionary online open, and that's it.
It's literally
she doesn't have Apterous or any other word solver or anything like that.
The laptop Susie has just serves exactly the same function as the dictionary did when she had that.
Yeah. Another thing we were going to ask, I would have asked the researcher, was about their audition process. And I mean, you had a unique audition.
Well, I don't know if it was
people,
unique.
Is that right? Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, when we spoke to Innis just now, I didn't think to press him on it, but he did. I did notice he used a phrase in his audition that he was the only person in the room not to have got a certain word, which means he must have been in a room with other people doing a face-to-face audition in a group, which was my experience.
Or his family are amazing accountant. They all should have been on.
Yeah, maybe that's what he meant. Yeah.
Even my granny got it, and I didn't.
Yeah. But for me, when I got my audition, I was asked to go into ITV Studios in Leeds, and we sat round a table with the researcher who I was speaking to throughout my audition process, and who was there when I was filming. And we were given rounds and we played them. I think there were 7 or 8 of us round this table. We all did our audition in person there and then. And one of the people who I auditioned with, who I remember thinking he did really well, he was like the best guy in the room, was there when I went to film. I think he was on 3 or 4 games before me. I don't know if he won a game or not, but he didn't make it through to the point where we would have played each other, although that was possible if he had won a few. So I assumed that was the norm, that everyone would have done their audition in person, but until Innis mentioned that, everyone I have spoken to in this community about their audition all say they've done it over the phone. Even some people who are presumably near, the sort of cities you would expect to have.
Well, that's what I was wondering, whether they're doing this in parallel, because, I mean, the old process used to be where they would go to a pub in Birmingham or something like that and invite people for auditions.
Right.
And they'd all turn up on the day and all, as you say, all sit around classroom style. Mm-hmm. And doing it together, and then they would find out on the day whether they got enough. Whereas mine was just a telephone conversation, just to say, well, we'll ring you back this afternoon at 2:15 or something like that. Mm. Or, and that's, as you say, most of the modern people have that. But I'm wondering, do they have a parallel process where maybe they still conduct group auditions as well?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, there definitely seems to be something along those lines going on, because at the time I did my audition, other people in my series all did a phone audition. So I don't think it's purely based on the time period they do it in. It might be somewhat based in location, obviously, because the head offices of Countdown are really local to me, and everyone else at my audition was from West Yorkshire or near Leeds anyway. So it might be that, but I'd imagine ITV also have offices in Manchester, London, maybe Edinburgh or Glasgow. So I can't imagine it's just people who live in or near Leeds who
well, it's Yorkshire. They know you're great. You see, you're great. You're competitive animals who like words and games and. So maybe it's not a bad idea.
I remember actually
maybe they based themselves in the right place,
It's when I was going into the audition, as I was walking up to the studio, I got the bus there, and I was walking from the bus stop into the offices of ITV, and this guy pulled up in a car, and he said, "Oh, are you at ITV to audition?" So I said yes, and he said, "Oh yeah, me too. I just can't find a car park." And so I helped him find the car park, and then we were walking along, assuming we were doing this audition together. And then it turned out he was auditioning for Emmerdale, and I was auditioning for Countdown. So we thought we were in the same boat.
You could have been in Emmerdale, man.
Yeah, well, it could have been. If we'd have, mistaken the call, it could have ended up that I was now be an Emmerdale actor, and this chap would have been a Countdown
champion. 69 champion,
yeah, you never know.
Career swap. But anyway, I mean, it's not a criticism of the show. We're just looking at it from. I'm looking at it from a sort of a historical point of view of the way the show has sort of changed over the years, and that different slant of nowadays. It does seem a little bit more numerical, where it was, a little bit more wordy before, from back in the day.
Yeah.
But it's a shame. It's a shame we couldn't have the researcher on to talk about, because there's a lot of other things we would have liked to ask the researcher and give our listeners an insight into what they could possibly expect when they go on the show.
Yeah,
we've covered a little bit of that in some of the previous interviews. It would have been nice to get it from the official horse's mouth, so to speak.
Yeah, well, all our guests can obviously relate their own stories, and I think you can extract from that a lot of what the studio experience is like, but it's always interesting to hear it from the other side of the screen as well.
It is,
that's why the making of and behind the scenes things are always so popular, because it's fascinating to see, especially with something like Countdown that people feel so familiar with. It's really interesting to see behind the scenes. Like the first time you visit the TV studio and you see how it's made, it's interesting to see that, and there's still more detail beyond that would be interesting to hear. So yeah, if one day we could speak to someone who is involved in the making of the show, then I think that would be really interesting for us and for our listeners. But it wasn't to be this time.
I hope that they realise where we're coming from as well, and that we mean it with the best of intentions. We're here. We are fans of the show. We're not looking to reveal secrets. We're not looking to give away tricks. It's more just an insight into their thinking and
Yeah, there's no sneaky Russian intelligence behind us. You know, we're all.
No, there's not. There's no Russian money. There's no money at all.
Yeah.
So there's no any money.
Yeah, if you see Countdown on RT, it's nothing to do with us.
Yeah. I mean, and speaking of the show again, I suppose we could just wrap up. We have a couple of other people we know maybe coming onto the show quite soon. We would like to wish them well. I'm not sure if we can name them, but they probably know who they are. I'll give Adam Beach a shout. Adam will be up on Monday the 18th, so best of luck, Adam, if you're listening.
I don't believe I've had the pleasure of meeting Adam before, but I've heard a lot of him from yourself and George and others who are involved in the Facebook group. So, yeah, best of luck to him.
Tim Scott is on at the moment. Tim Scott just won his first game today.
I didn't know that. That's good to know.
Yeah, he's on the Facebook group. And
excellent.
Who else was coming up recently?
I think one that is definitely quite public about it. I don't know if he's got filming dates yet, but we're hoping to see Anthony Enzo soon.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So he'll be his second time on the show.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was a long time ago now. A really long time ago he was on. He's been around a long time as Anthony. He's one of the early members of the community, and he's a great guy. And he's really improved his game recently. I mean, he's always been a very capable player, but recently he's really kicked on to another level. So, yep. So, and yep. Wow. So he's definitely one to watch out for if he does make it to the studio sometime soon. Yeah, and then there are a few others who I don't think we can name, but
no, we won't name them.
Keep your eyes peeled. There's
Niall Waters, I think, is coming up as well.
Yeah, I've heard that name being thrown about. Yeah, so we're looking forward to seeing some familiar faces. Yeah, good luck.
And hopefully, if they do well, we'll get them on the show to talk about their experiences.
For sure. Yeah, that would be excellent.
Cool. So I think we'll wrap it up there. That's enough, I think, for episode 3. We hope you enjoyed listening. Hope you enjoyed the feature-length interview with Innis. We hope to get someone from the TV on again. If you're listening, you know where we are. Please answer the phone if we ring.
And as far as guests are concerned, if you know of anyone you particularly like to hear us speak to, then let us know. You know, we're not afraid of reaching out to anyone to invite them on the show. We can't guarantee that it will always be able to happen. But yeah, if there's anyone, you know, if you're listening to this and there's someone who you'd really love to hear us speak to, then let us know who it is, and we'll try and get them on.
Yeah, that's focaltalkpodcast@gmail.com is the email address.
Yep.
So let us know your opinions. You might be on our list already, but that's all good.
Yeah, we do have a list.
Confirmed to us that people want to hear these people speak.
Yeah, we do have an A list of countdown celebs we want to get on from within the community.
We do, all in good time. I would like someone from the show. I really would. Just for balance. Mm-hmm. They don't have to be particularly senior, just someone who's qualified to speak.
Yeah, just someone who can give us a view of the show from the other side of the glass, you know. That'd be great. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's good. Well, hopefully that'll happen pretty soon. And we should be back, later on this month, I think, with another one, maybe? Maybe towards the end of the month? Start of April, maybe?
I think we can tease one guest. We are hoping to speak to George Armstrong about his upcoming York event, amongst other things.
So we'll try and get that out before then.
Yeah, I'd imagine early April would probably be the next release date, all being well.
Okay. All right, folks.
Thanks very much for listening.
Yeah. Bye-bye.